Hello everyone, how's it going? Today, me Aulia Rachma Pratiwi and my partner Rahmia will discuss about the issues of politics identity as represented in the science fiction film. Have a good time watching! So, in this video, we have 4 points to talk about. First, is the definitions of science fiction film. The second one is history and development of science fiction film. The third one is definitions of politics identity. And the last point is the examples of films that represents politics identity. Okay, let's move on to the first discussions about the definitions of science fictions. What is science fiction films? Science fictions, or better known as sci-fi, is one of the most popular film genre, which is in great demand by audiences from various backgrounds and ages. The major aspects of this genre film is that it combines speculative phenomena from science fictions that are not completely embraced by popular science, such as extraterrestrial life forms, aliens, and interstellar travel, with technological features like spaceships, robots, and other technologies. Then, when did the science fiction film begin? This genre began in the early days of silent film. The first sci-fi film was released in 1902 entitled Le Voyage dans la Lune, or A Trip to the Moon. It is a French adventure short film directed by Georges Méliès. Science fiction films continue to develop. Entering the year 1930, many big-budget sci-fi films were made, such as King Kong. Later, in the 1950s, the public interest in space travel and new technology was huge. This took sci-fi stories to a whole new level using new technology. Things set in the future looked a little more realistic, and the audience was blown away. Continue in the 1990s, several technology and cyber-themed films such as The Minotaur, Armageddon, The Matrix, and Star Wars became very successful with over $1 billion. Then, during the early 2000s, sci-fi films became hits and box offices worldwide. Followed with the new technology and improved CGI, movies with extraordinary fantasy made like in the movie like Avatar. Judging from the historical timeline, the sci-fi genre has changed over time, not only focusing on space and time travel with the aliens, but now has the more thrilling advantage of using CGI and new technological means. Now, in sci-fi films, everything looks more realistic and includes more conventions like robots and the cyber world, which brings existing new advantage to the sci-fi genre. Little did you know, the styles of criticisms and debate portrayed in science fiction films also represents the specific issue of the period in which they were made. Early science fiction films shared worry about science and technology displacing jobs and degrading cultures. Later, sci-fi films are often used to discuss existential topics such as the human experience, as well as to comment on political or social issues.
And now, we are going to mention politics identity in science fiction films. Before we present an example, it will be better if we explain first politics identity. So, what is politics identity? The term refers to political agenda organized in groups or communities, specifically surrounding minorities based on gender, race, social class, and etc. there are a lot of films under politics identity agenda. Because why? Because films are one several media prefer the most because it's entertaining and easy to access, which is why film is a great media to convey message to raise awareness among publics. After this, we are going to mention two films based on two different agenda backgrounds. The first agenda is minority discrimination, which we take War of the World film as the example. Directed by Steven Spielberg and released in 2005, the film is an adaptation from the same book by Herbert George Wells, the father and the pioneer of modern sci-fi as we know today. So, the premise of the film is very simple. Aliens from the outer space come to Earth and they invade humans to check the planet, and humankind have to survive within circumstances. And so, the question is how the film with a very simple premise can represent such a minority discrimination. So, humans in the film are the depiction of how minorities cannot fight back power dominance by a particular society. This depiction is logically reasonable if we refer back to the author of the original book, Wells himself, upon the inspiration he based from. So, the story was specifically inspired back in the late 19th century, where British Empire discriminated native Tasmanian minorities, which was a very unfortunate event and ended up in genocide. And so, how does it relate with today's circumstances? Both film and the book are just very well representing how minority discrimination which is still being a daily basis. The film does not mean to normalize human discrimination, but rather as a reminder to not repeat history again. Second representation is women's role in entertainment media, the Star Wars original trilogy by George Lucas as the case. Before we jump into the film, better we explain first the story of women in entertainment media. So, women back before have a pretty harsh history according to equal rights, but we need to focus on entertainment or film industry instead. So, female characters were very less preferred in film years ago, and they often have a very little screen time between being a passive character or just a sexual object, which is why a good representation of women in film industry was very lacking. But until the release of Star Wars film, the fictional female character, Princess Leia, was able to stand out amongst other male characters. Her personality as a strong, determined, and independent woman was a very rare case during that time, which is her character about to suffer the woman trope being helpless and weak. This gives us huge chance in media how women are seen and given likely the same opportunity like men.
To conclude our discussion today, behind the stunning beauty of science fiction films, from the storyline to the CGI effects that make it look real, usually science fiction films are made to represent certain issues, one of which is political identity. Audiovisual media such as films, especially those in the science fiction genre, are believed to be the most powerful means of conveying messages to the public because they have many audiences of all ages. And the films mentioned previously are partially a bit of entire science fiction films uncovered, and the number of them in similar threads arguably increases further in the futures. That is the explanation from us about the issues of politics identity as represented in the science fiction films. We're so sorry if there are any mistake. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and have a nice day.